Howdy folks, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to recap No Country for Old Men, a neo-Western crime thriller directed by the Coen brothers. Here be spoilers, so viewers beware. The film starts with a voiceover from a sheriff called Bell, reminiscing about the changes of the times as a police officer in rural Texas. A deputy sheriff is then seen arresting a man. The character's name is Anton Chigurh, who is carrying a gas canister, which the deputy finds suspicious. The deputy takes Chigurh back to the station and phones the sheriff to tell him about the strange suspect he has arrested. He is strangled to death by Chigurh, who then steals his squad car. Chigurh uses the squad car to pull over an old man. He tells the man to get out of the car before using the gas canister hose to kill the man with a pressurized blast. We then meet Llewelyn Moss, a man hunting pronghorns in the desert with his rifle. Llewellyn stumbles upon a drug deal gone bad and goes to check it out. He finds the aftermath of a shootout and dead bodies all around, before discovering a Mexican in a truck who is still alive. He asks the Mexican where the last man standing is, but he only begs for water. Llewellyn tells the man that he has no water and checks out the bed of the truck, which is loaded with bricks of drugs. Further away, he tracks down the last man standing, dead under a tree with a briefcase and a pistol. Llewellyn opens the briefcase and finds it is filled with $100 bills. Llewellyn takes the briefcase of money in the pistol and drives home to his trailer. His wife, Carla Jean, asks where he found them, but he avoids answering the question directly. Llewellyn wakes up in the night and, filled with guilt, he decides to drive back to the site of the drug deal shootout with water for the man he left behind in the truck. Llewellyn parks at the top of the hill overlooking the scene and walks down. When he gets there and cautiously opens the truck door, he discovers the man is dead. Suddenly, he notices another truck is pulled up next to where he is parked, and two men get out. He hears voices and the sounds of his tires being slashed. Llewellyn is now in fear and tries to run, but the two men spot him and start to shoot. He is chased into the river and is shot in the shoulder before jumping in and swimming downstream away from the two men and their dog. When Llewellyn climbs out of the river out of range of the men, the dog is still chasing him. He manages to shoot and kill it as it is inches away from catching him. We briefly return to the perspective of Chigurh, who has stopped at a solitary gas station and begins to freak out the owner with his mannerisms and direction of conversation. He challenges the owner to predict a coin toss, and when he predicts correctly, Chigurh appears to spare his life. It is now nighttime again, and Llewellyn is mated back home, knowing he is in danger of being identified through his truck at the scene. He tells his wife she has to pack her things and stay with her mother in Odessa. Meanwhile, Chigurh returns to the scene with two men, possibly mobsters. He pries off the identifying plate from Llewellyn's truck, and the mobsters hand Chigurh a transponder. After taking the transponder, he picks up a gun and kills them both. We then turn to the perspective of Sheriff Bell, who provided the opening monologue. He goes to check out the crime scene, accompanied by another deputy called Wendell. When they get to the road at the top of the hill, they discover a burned-out car, which belonged to the old man that Chigurh pulled over and killed, as well as the truck which they recognize as belonging to Llewelyn Moss. They check out the scene of the shootout itself and are puzzled by what they find. There are dead bodies in different states of decay, bullet casings of varying types, and traces of drugs. They question where their money has gone. Chigurh uses the air canister to blow open the lock and break into Llewellyn's home at the trailer park. He discovers evidence that they have packed up and left, but he finds a letter with phone numbers on them, which he keeps to help track Llewellyn down. He takes a bottle of milk from the fridge and sits down. Chigurh then heads to the office of the trailer park, hoping to find out where Llewellyn is and where he works, but the receptionist refuses to give him any information. She is clearly creeped out, and he leaves empty-handed when they are about to be interrupted by another person entering. Sheriff Bell and Deputy Wendell arrive at Llewellyn's home. They find the lock blown out and eventually notice the bottle of milk left out, still cold. Realizing they have missed Chigurh by a matter of minutes, Llewellyn arrives in Del Rio and checks into a motel. He takes the briefcase and hides it in the ventilation shaft of his motel room before heading out to buy new clothes and clean up his wounds. Meanwhile, Chigurh continues to track Llewellyn down and begins phoning numbers on the letter he found at his trailer before heading to Del Rio, a location listed on the letter. As Llewellyn heads back to his motel room, he gets spooked and tells the driver to head to a different motel instead. The next day at breakfast, Deputy Wendell gives the sheriff the lab report from the old man killed by Chigurh. The mystery continues as they have discovered that there was no bullet, despite it looking like a bullet entry wound and no exit wound being present. Llewellyn goes to the store to purchase a shotgun and tent poles before heading back to the first motel where he hid the money and booking the room behind it. Chigurh is driving down the road when his transponder begins to go off. He pulls into the motel Llewellyn is in, checking out the room map to find where the money could be. Llewellyn tapes the tent poles together and uses them to try to hook the briefcase out of the vent. Chigurh walks around the room Llewellyn had booked, armed with a shotgun and a gas canister, blowing open the lock and coming across 3 Mexicans, killing them all with ease. He searches for the briefcase in the room before opening the vent and finding scrape marks from the briefcase. Llewellyn had managed to escape with the briefcase and hitchhike a ride. He heads to a hotel in a different town and checks in. In the meantime, we meet Carson Wells, a hitman hired to track down Chigurh and the money. Llewellyn discovers the transponder inside the briefcase has been leading Chigurh and the Mexicans to him and realizes that someone is already at the hotel. After being wounded by the lock being blown open by Chigurh, Llewellyn jumps out of the window and tries to run away, with Chigurh shooting at him and chasing after him. Llewellyn tries to catch a ride, but the driver is killed and Llewellyn crashes the truck. After shooting back at Chigurh, Llewellyn realizes he has wounded him and Chigurh has escaped through an alley. Llewellyn heads to the Mexico border, buying a coat off a stranger for $500 to cover up his wounds and throwing the bag of money into the banks of the river before he crosses into Mexico and passes out in the streets of the town. The next morning, Chigurh blows up a car as a distraction to steal supplies to treat his wounds. Pulling out bullet fragments and bandaging himself up, Llewellyn wakes up in a hospital with Carson Wells beside his bed. Carson tells him he needs to give the money back and reveals the identity of Chigurh, the man who has been hunting him, warning him of the danger he and his wife are in. Llewellyn is defiant, joking that he spent all the money and that maybe Chigurh is the one who should be scared. In the meantime, Sheriff Bell has traveled to Odessa to talk to Carla Jean, who says she doesn't know where Llewellyn is. The sheriff warns her that bad people are after her husband. Carson traces Llewellyn's steps and tries to look for the money at the border before heading back to his hotel. At the hotel, Chigurh is waiting for Carson, and they go to his room. Carson tries to bargain for his life, but is killed as the phone rings. Llewellyn is on the line, trying to contact Carson. Chigurh answers and hints that he will head to Odessa to track down Carla Jean and kill her. His offer is that if Llewellyn returns the money, he will spare her life. But Llewellyn will still be killed either way. Llewellyn vows to hunt Chigurh down and hangs up. Llewellyn heads back over the border into Texas, buys new clothes and retrieves a briefcase full of money from where he had tossed it. He rings Carla Jean and tells her to meet him in El Paso. She then lets Sheriff Bell know where they are going and asks for his help. On their way, they are tracked by Mexicans who follow their car before asking Carla Jean's mother where they are staying. Chigurh tracks down the boss who hired Carson Wells and the Mexicans to also track down the money and kills him, saying, "You picked the one right tool." Then Bell gets to El Paso. He hears gunshots at the motel where Llewellyn is staying. Bell checks out the scene and finds dead bodies, including the one of Llewelyn Moss, who has been shot and killed. Carla Jean arrives at the motel and discovers her husband is dead. Sheriff Bell continues to investigate and returns to the scene where Llewellyn was killed. He sees the lock has been blown off, but finds nobody there. The sheriff heads out to visit an old friend, and they discuss past times and people they knew who had died. They contemplate the inevitability of death. You can't stop what's coming. Time has passed as Carla Jean's mother has died. She attends her funeral where she is buried. When Carla Jean returns home, she finds Chigurh waiting for her. Chigurh tells her that her husband had the opportunity to save her, but didn't. Chigurh offers her a coin toss instead, but she refuses to call it. We don't get to see the result of what happened after, but it is likely she was killed. As he drives away from the house, Chigurh's car is T-boned at an intersection and he breaks his arm. Chigurh is approached by two boys on bikes. They give him a shirt to use as a sling, and Chigurh limps away. The film ends with Sheriff Bell talking to his wife at home. He is agitated and tells her about the dreams he has been having. He dreamt of riding through the mountains at night and waking up before he got to his father up ahead of him. No Country for Old Men is a film deep in layered meanings and symbolism. Its setting in the quiet and sparsely populated desert of West Texas leaves full focus on the characters involved, and the main themes revolve around morality, chance, and mortality. It explores the fragility of life and the ease with which it can be taken away, the meaning of luck, and how much control we have in life and death. The main characters share different morals to varying extremes. There are the sheriffs who uphold the law and are morally just. Chigurh, who has principles, as Carson Wells says, but lacks any morals around killing anybody he comes across. Llewelyn Moss has strong principles too, but has mixed morals. He has no qualms about taking the money for himself, but also respects his marriage. The theme of chance is woven through the entire story. It is what led Llewellyn to the money, but also to trouble and his eventual death. It is what saved the life of the gas station owner when he guessed the coin toss correctly, and it was the chance of timing that almost brought Bell and Wendell into the path of Chigurh and Moss's trailer. The crucial aspect that drives the film forward is greed. Greed for the money. Greed that impels men to stop at nothing to get it for themselves, no matter the cost. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.